I will talk about some of the new high availability feature that got introduced in GlassFish 3.1. Java EE applications typically have significant session data. If a server instance fails, all the sessions served by it will be lost. GlassFish Server provides high availability of HTTP and EJB states by replicating them to other clustered instances. Session state replication is provided by an OSGI module, which is loaded only when HA-enabled applications are deployed. This replication module distributes session state uniformly among instances. This is a significant change from GlassFish 2.1, where an instance will replicate the user sessions only to its neighboring instance. Replication module uses Group Management Service, which is also an OSGI module. GMS provides notifications about instances joining and leaving GlassFish cluster. These membership events are consumed by replication module to choose the appropriate replica instance to replicate a session. GMS itself has been modified to use Grizzly for performance transport. The replication module is used by Web Container for replicating HTTP and single sign-on sessions, and also by EJB Container for replicating stateful session beans. GlassFish 3.1 now additionally supports high availability of reliable messages and secure conversations in web services. This is a completely new feature that got introduced in GlassFish 3.1. Load balancers. We support Oracle iPlanet Web Server and Apache LB with ModJK. With Oracle GlassFish LB plugin, Oracle iPlanet Web Server has been optimized for better HA performance. Configuration of HA features remains the same as GlassFish 2.1. Let us see how the replication module in GlassFish 3.1 provides high availability of session states. For this, let us assume a 4-instance cluster setup front-ended by Oracle iPlanet Load Balancer. Let's say request 1 from user 1 arrives into the load balancer, and the load balancer routes the request to instance 1. Then the session 1 created in instance 1 could be replicated by the replication module to instance 4. Similarly, request from user 2 could arrive into the load balancer, and if it happens to be routed to instance 1 again, the replication module will replicate the data to instance 2. The key point here is that the replication module does not replicate all the session data created in instance 1 to just its neighboring node. So let's see what happens when instance 1 fails. When instance 1 fails, Oracle iPlanet Load Balancer will route the request for user session 1 to instance 4. This is because that's where the replicated data resides. Similarly, request 2 data will be routed to instance 2, and then the session 2 data will be replicated to instance 4 or to instance 3. If we use Apache ModJK, and if the load balancer routes the request to, let's say, instance 3, then the replication module will pull the data from instance 4 into instance 3 and then replicate the data to either instance 4 or to instance 2. In terms of GlassFish 3.1 HA performance, our internal performance benchmarks show a performance improvement of around 34% compared to GlassFish 2.1. This is because of several new changes that we have made in both containers as well as in the replication module. For example, EJB and web session states that are created in a single request are all replicated to the same replica instance. Similarly, we have made some significant changes in batching of replication messages to reduce the network traffic. I am now going to demonstrate how to deploy and access a HA-enabled web application. For this, I'm going to use a 4-instance cluster with Oracle iPlanet Load Balancer. To demonstrate the smart failover feature, I'm going to use Oracle GlassFish LB plugin. Let's start with the installation of the Load Balancer plugin. I have a VNC session already running on this machine, Proton 1, where we are going to run the Oracle iPlanet web server and the Oracle GlassFish LB plugin. I'm now going to log on to this Proton 1 machine. I have already installed the web server in this machine, and the load balancer plugin configurator is also downloaded here. I'm going to run the installer now, which will configure the load balancer with GlassFish plugin. This brings up the installer GUI. Let me move this. Click Next, choose the Oracle iPlanet web server, and choose the installation directory. And then specify the admin user ID and password. The host is this machine. So this will run the configurator. Shouldn't take a long time. Yes, it's done. Now we will run our HA application. I'm now going to deploy our web application. So I'm going to go to the DAS machine. So the command is ready to be run. We need to run asadmin deploy -- availability enabled equal to true. And then the application name. Now the application is deployed. We need to run one more script which tells the load balancer about our cluster configuration. I have a script already written for this. I'm just going to run the script now. Now we are ready to run our web application. I'm going to open up a browser and access our application now. And access and send the URL to the load balancer. This web application presents a form where we can add a set of attributes that are kept in the HTTP session. So I'm going to add a couple of attributes. And as you can see, this request is served by instance 1. I'm now going to go and kill this instance 1 machine, and then we will access this application again. Okay, the instance 1 has been stopped. I'm going to come back to the browser and again make the request. And this time, as you could see, it is now served by instance 2 because instance 1 has failed. But as you could see, all the session attributes have been retained.